We want to make sure that we have the opportunity to make sure that we facilitate for everyone. It's always a pleasure having our local as well as our neighboring counties and cities support us. This is a great opportunity to be able to support you and have these conversations that are very much needed during this time. So with your patience, we're looking forward to be able to support you and bring you those special nuggets that you so need right now, because you are contributing members to your cities, to your communities, and more importantly, to our economy.
Doing Webinar Wednesdays, we're really proud to say that we have been consistent with our webinars, bringing you the latest and most accurate information and resources that are out there to help your small business through these times. Today, we're going to be talking about funding sources and other nuggets. So we have a really robust and really good presentation put together today for you all. So we're really excited to provide this for you. But before we start, I really want to thank our sponsors and supporters, because without your help and support, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you, HEB, for being a key partner in these webinars. Without your dedication and your support, this really truly wouldn't be possible. I also want to thank BBVA, Wells Fargo, and VIA for supporting these efforts, and also to all of our supporters, our chambers of commerce, SBDCs, the Westside Development Corporation, and everyone that's really passionate about what we're doing. And I really want to thank everyone involved in these efforts. And before we start, I really want to emphasize that this week on Friday, we're going to have the Buy Local Grow SA website launch. And the purpose of this website is it's aimed to help the local businesses in San Antonio to grow and expand beyond measures. And this is going to be a database where you're going to have access to other business owners, and you're going to be able to register, and it's going to be like social media platform, but for businesses. So you'll be able to have your own registration page and your profile, and you can add pictures and your information so people can look you up, and also you can look up other business and procurement opportunities. So I just wanted to say that before we start. And without further ado, Juanita, if you can help me introducing our panelists for today.
Thank you, Mari. It is always a pleasure to be able to partner up with local organizations and companies that support us, not just here in San Antonio, but throughout the state of Texas. It is always a pleasure to be able to do these Webinar Wednesdays. And today, just like Mari, who is the director over at the Maestro Entrepreneur Center, who had the foresight to be able to create a platform to bring necessary, not just resources, but the community to become unified. Today's webinar is about funding sources and other nuggets. And today we want to start with Ruben Lopez. Ruben is going to be, Ramiro Gonzalez, who is going to be providing us information about funding sources and opportunities. Ramiro?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for including the Westside Development Corporation as part of this webinar. This webinar is incredible. Thank you for putting it together, everyone who's been part of it. It's an incredible asset to everyone who's kind of, making the best of a difficult situation. So thank you. My name is Ramiro Gonzalez. I'm the interim CEO for the Westside Development Corporation. A little bit about myself is my background has largely been in public service, policy development, and real estate. I had a long career at the city of San Antonio. I joined the Westside Development Corporation about 2 months ago, just before all of this happened. So it's been quite a wild ride. But there's a lot that the Westside Development Corporation is doing to try to assist our Westside businesses as best as we can in this situation, and make sure that really the goal is to make sure that as many of our Westside businesses are being able to take advantage of the resources that are available, and then also taking advantage of the resources that we have at Westside. So I'm going to shortly just kind of go over a little bit about the Westside Development Corporation, some of the resources we can help them out with.
But Ramiro, you're not just touching on areas that's already available. You're going beyond and looking at other resources, not just what is common. We're not just looking at what's the immediate. We're looking at 2 to 3 steps forward, and you're also reaching out to get additional funding and resources, right?
That's exactly right. You know, obviously the immediate need is capital for businesses. So where there is that available, we want to make sure that as many of them are taking advantage of it as possible. But the reality is there's just not enough to go around right now on these rounds that are coming out. So what else can these businesses be doing to really be adapting to the current situation and making sure that they survive this, and maybe even thrive on the other end of it, based on what we're being forced into, which is meaning looking inwardly at the businesses and saying, okay, what could we be doing better so that we're leaner and we're stronger as a result. So that's kind of what the focus is, not just now, but, you know, into the future as well.
Absolutely. And with no further ado, educate us, Ramiro.
Okay, sure. Let me tell you a little bit about Westside Development Corporation. So we were a local government corporation that was formed by the city back in 2006. Largely, we're an economic and community development organization. Our mission, which you see there, in essence, our job, our mission, our goal is to strengthen the West Side, to strengthen our organizations, our businesses, our communities, our neighborhoods, so that the entire West Side thrives from an economic standpoint. And because every community is an ecosystem, that means touching on every single aspect of our community, including our cultural resources, our art, everything, so that we make the West Side an even more vibrant and attractive place to live and spend time. So that's really what the West Side Development Corporation was created for. And so in this time, we're really, you know, leveraging the programs we already had in place, but then also looking at what additional value can we be adding to these businesses. So we can go to the next one. There you go, thank you. So as I mentioned, you know, these are kind of some of the programs that we kind of already have in place even before all of this, and some of what we do. You know, largely it's small business development, so helping with loans and grants. We get a certain amount of money every year from the city, about $100,000, which isn't huge, but in that way we're able to help some businesses pre-COVID with loans and grants that were, you know, just based on expanding their business or maybe filling some kind of need. We also offer technical assistance for businesses who are just trying to get their business started, or maybe figure out how do we really fit on the West Side and really maximize kind of our impact in that area. And then also bringing businesses together in an alliance from a corridor perspective, all the businesses on a corridor, and trying to get them lined up so that we can give them a stronger voice and be able to address their needs as a group to make them more successful based on their area. Workforce development, so looking to see how do we economically strengthen our residents on the West Side, and that largely comes from increasing their earning capacity and trying to give them more economic resources available to them. So that means, you know, training. That means giving them better job opportunities. And so one of those, one of the most, I guess, manifested ways that has been seen is through the WETC, which is the West Side Education and Training Center, over at what former Edgewood campus on 41st Street. And so that focuses mostly on health professions. And so training up people to be able to enter into the job market with greater earning capacity and skills. And then we also support other organizations or other projects that are happening in that, most likely through fiscal agent services. So if you have a project, you're trying to get something going on the West Side, but you don't have a nonprofit, but you want to raise money for it, the West Side can actually serve in that nonprofit role to help you raise money, provide write-offs, so that you can still create an attractive offer as you're raising money for your project, and so we can help with that. And then also cultural preservation efforts, much like the image you see here, which is the La Música mural over just at the end of the Commerce Bridge coming into the West Side. So working on projects like that to restore these cultural assets of the West Side. It's just an example of some of the stuff that we currently do. And then as we go on to the next slide, kind of look at what we're doing in response to the current situation, how we're leveraging things. You know, we have a lot of our partners there, which are the people that we're working with very closely to make sure that we're getting as many of our West Side businesses into that funnel as possible, to make sure that they get as much help as they can. Right now, internally, what we are also offering is some relief loans for businesses, so that it has a much lower threshold of documentation and qualification. Basically, it's a very short application and then a conversation with us to see kind of where your business is, particularly, especially for some of these businesses who may be applying for other assistance and they're just waiting for it. We can also do some gap funding so that they can get funds now while they're waiting for those other funds to come in. Those loans are forgivable as long as they demonstrate that the funds were used in response to the impacts from COVID. So they can be forgiven, and the payments would not start. Yes, in the event that it isn't forgiven, then payments still wouldn't start for another 6 months. So it's meant to be very flexible, and we have up to about $100,000 to work with on that. So, and the idea is that at least a portion of that is revolving, so that as one pays out from getting funding assistance through other means, that's more dollars that we're able to make available to another business who's waiting on their funding. So that's kind of the design of that. And then also just our small business outreach. So we're every day getting calls and also calling just our database and our clients, finding out where they at, how are they doing, what kind of help do they need. It's actually interesting that there's a number of businesses who they're okay, and they kind of started to adjust. So they started to just kind of pull back on all the offerings. They kind of made a leaner menu, or they're just leaner services. And so they kind of responded kind of quickly on it. And so they're doing okay. We still encourage them to take advantage of all the programs that are available to them. But it's been interesting to see how the strategies of one business can help another. And that's why I think, webinars and things like this are incredibly important, so that these small businesses can learn from each other. I mean, those of us who kind of sit in the agency side, there's information we can share and things we can say, but at the end of the day, to hear from another business owner of what they're doing and how they're adapting, I think is incredibly valuable information to them. And then we're also looking at who are those businesses that have not gotten assistance, those who were in line for either the PPP funding, the EIDL, the county funding through LIFT Fund, those businesses who maybe just don't have their documentation in order to be financeable in many ways or bankable. Who are those businesses, so that we can make sure they're not just left out in the cold, and how are we going to maybe adapt a new product or something that might help them. One of the things that we're also looking at is, what does the other side of this look like for these businesses? Even those, whether you get help or you don't, how do you actually reopen? Now with the governor's latest order, reopening we're talking about that now and what that plan looks like going forward. So all these businesses, for 25%, occupancy may not make sense for a lot of businesses. And so it may not be a real relief to them at this point in terms of reopening. So they're still kind of sitting on the sidelines and just kind of waiting and saying, okay, what's it going to look like when we finally can open? They're monitoring the situation. So it's very much the right time to be talking about, what do you need when it is time to reopen, when it is time to ramp up? What are you going to need to get there? And that may be technical assistance, that may be help negotiating with their landlord for some kind of lease, some kind of creative lease strategies. And also, one of the things that we're also exploring are, what are some other creative financing from an investment standpoint that could work? Are opportunity zones an opportunity to leverage for these businesses, so that maybe they even come out stronger on the other side, in the sense that they're able to bring in additional capital and come out stronger through a marketing and a capability and equipment standpoint. So there are conversations happening now about what reopening looks like, and what are some different tools that we can be implementing right now and exploring right now, so that it's more available to businesses. And so that's a lot of what we're doing. And we're also just working with partners to figure out, how else can we step in? One of the other ongoing efforts is this more robust case management strategy for our West Side businesses, which has kind of been happening, I think, informally, and you'd hear that from all the different partner organizations, is, how do we not just touch one business, but own the situation of that business? A kind of 360 solution makes sure, okay, did you Did you go and talk to Lift Fund? Okay, that didn't work. Okay, come back. Let's find you somewhere else. Okay, and you also need help with your bookkeeping. Let's get you matched up with someone who can help you with that. And all these different partners have different resources. And so at the Westside Development Corporation, we're working on a matrix, a resource matrix that would be available to all of our businesses that includes all the different partners and all the different resources available to them. And that way they actually have a menu of services that they can be selecting from.
I think you touched, and I apologize, I don't really want to interrupt you because the passion that I get from you is extremely important. I think you've touched on it, on the key part is, if one door closes, where are you guiding them to open another one? Because right now, we have to be able to continue to groom hope, faith, and develop a new foundation. And I understand when what you're saying is you're doing strategic planning, you're doing business analysis, you're reevaluating your businesses, you're actually partnering with other businesses to see how they can mentor a business that hasn't quite opened. You also touched on the concern with now that the governor is considering opening these businesses, you know, and I'm sure you're probably already initiating these conversations, is take a step back, really do the evaluation. Is it a good time to open your doors right now? Because even though you need to create business, is it in your best interest to open them right now? And I'm sure those are some of the conversations you're having, right?
That's exactly right. You know, just saying yes at any level doesn't necessarily mean that it makes sense for that business's situation, either from a public health standpoint or even from an economic standpoint. Once you open your doors, you have costs associated with that. And even if there is this reopening from a legislative side, that doesn't mean that the public is ready to take on that risk. It doesn't mean the business owner is ready to take on that risk. So there's still some additional analysis and evaluation that needs to occur. And as businesses are trying to figure out, okay, what are those points that we need to be looking at, you know, we're happy to kind of engage with them. And as we're learning that as well, you know, sharing that and making these businesses stronger and helping them make more educated decisions in their business.
Ramiro, this is great. We have your contact information up here. For those who are joining us, this is Westside Development Corporation. Ramiro Gonzalez, interim CEO. You've done a superb job of providing us information in what you're doing in your community. But I also hear in your voices that you're not just staying on the West Side. You're looking at your surrounding areas on how you can integrate in with them and looking at your partners who may not be on the West Side and may have better ideas that might be working for them. Contact them, ask them information. They've brought a wealth of resources already that's in your neighborhood. And like our partners in Houston, our partners in Dallas and Fort Worth, you know, this is the time to truly collaborate, interact with each other, and grow, because the state of Texas is not just one of the largest states, but we also have one of the organizations that in which we've developed the best business development for small businesses. Ramiro, in closing, what is the one thing that you want someone to walk away when they think about the Westside Development Corporation?
You know, I think for a long time there has been this kind of confusion as to exactly what, how can WDC help me? How can WDC help my business? And the answer is really, let's hear about your situation. Let's hear about what you're dealing with even before COVID. Let's talk about your business. Even if you have a business that is doing well, like, you know, how can we expand that? How can we increase the economic opportunity for you? And for those who are going through this situation right now, and even if you're not bankable, even if you don't have what bankers like to see, we want to talk to you. We want to try to figure out what will work for you rather than won't work for you, and try to come up with solutions with you. So I want anyone who maybe never heard of us before or didn't exactly know how to engage with us. If you've got an issue on the West Side with your business and you're trying to get through this, you're trying to make it better, reach out to us. Even if we are not able to provide that particular resource, we're connected with all these partners who have other resources. And that's really what our role is to be that connector to make your business better.
There, you heard it. You heard it. Thank you, Ramiro. It's definitely
Absolutely
heartfelt, and I appreciate the passion. All right, everyone.
Thank you.
Let's look at some funding alternatives. We have Lloyd Wright and Ruben Lopez bringing us some information on alternatives, because We've all gone into our financial institutions. They've done the best that they can. They're doing a phenomenal job with what they do have, but let's get creative. What are we going to do? Mr. Wright, Mr. Lopez, can you educate us a little bit?
Thank you, Juanita. I think we're going to have Danny Harvey from the university go ahead first, and then I will follow both Mr. Harvey and Dr. Jackson, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Mr. Harvey, thank you very much for joining us. Audience, I want to introduce you to Mr. Danny Harvey. He's an educator and a motivator. Mr. Harvey is the Director of Financial Planning, Programs and Finance Instructor at the College of Business at the Prairie View A&M University. He has 19 years of financial industry experience. He's going to be doing the presentation on have a plan for your money. This gentleman, this professional, comes with a wealth of background, education, and experience. So take a listen, put your plan in order, because your money is valuable. Mr. Harvey.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing today?
It is a pleasure to make talents and skills and knowledge. Make my brain bigger, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a great platform for business owners to get great information. So thank you guys for having me. Mr. Ramiro did a great job. Mr. Gonzalez did a great job of talking about their business and what they offer. And so what I want to talk about is, again, being ready so that you can help them help you, in a sense. So you want to have a plan for your money. So if you can go to the first slide, please. So again, he talked about being aware of your situation and what you need. So again, whatever stage in the business, in your business you are, right now is a great time for you to evaluate your financial health, right? I know we're in lean times and things are a bit stressful, but you want to take a look at your finances and your books and see, where do I stand? Again, check your balance sheet, your income statements. And again, this is an opportunity for you to get a great handle on that. So a time to see, what does your cash flow look like? Where's your seasonality in your business? How does your money come in and how much and when does it come in? These are things, again, basic and sounds simple, but this is a time for business to really assess that and make sure they have accurate documentation of that data so that they can make decisions. Or when you go to a place like Westside Development Center, you have good information to give them so they can help you. And then the question is, why do you need more money? Again, the next segment is about, grant opportunities and alternative funding, but why do you need the money? That's a paramount question that you need to ask yourself. Again, the common thing would say, well, customers are slowing down. I need to get more funding to sustain. But what are you going to do with that money? Why do you need it? Is it for a new project, or is it for existing operations once things open back up? So those are questions that you really want to ask, and don't overlook that step to say, where do I stand today? Where did I stand 3 months ago? And then again, we want to look ahead of where can we be 3 months from now? So again, evaluating your financial health, having accurate financials, again, a balance sheet, which shows what you own and what you owe, and then your income statement to show your cash flow so that you can see times in the market where you're seeing high revenue or high expenses. And is that time coming up now so that you can make better decisions to say, should I open up or should I not? Next slide, please. So with that, you want to, as you have that data, now get a grip on your finances. How do you look from a credit standpoint? Is credit an option for you? What are your costs? Variable and fixed costs. These are things that you want to know so that, again, you have an accurate depiction of, if I take on this funding, whether it's something I have to pay back or something that's going to be given and I have to make an accurate account of that money, I have a plan for it. Again, is a new program or project that you're trying to launch that you need the money for? Or is it, again, for existing operations? These are things that you really want to have an understanding of before you go access or ask for additional funding, right? What is that money going to be used for? That's going to be a recurring question, or things that people or entities are going to ask you about as they say, we have this money available for you. The question will be, what will you do with it, and how will it impact your business? Is it going to be profitable? And those are things that you should be able to assess based on your business, your model, and your plans for the future. Again, whether that's continuing operations as normal or an opportunity, or you see an opportunity to grow and expand because there's a need. Whenever there's crisis or whenever there's turmoil, and again, it's a sad time, but it also creates opportunity, and you want to be prepared for it. The better you have an understanding of your finances, your costs, your expenses, variable and fixed, the better you are positioned and poised to take advantage of the opportunities that exist in new markets. Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm assuming that this is probably that time that you would even say, okay, it's not in my best interest to take additional funding. And I know we don't want to hear that, but is that the time too?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because again, anytime, if you don't have a plan for the money will get away from you and it could be misused. And again, if you're talking about grants where you're held accountable for what you do with that money, or you're talking about loans that you have to pay back with interest, even if it's a small amount, that's still costing you. So again, sometimes it might not be in your best interest to take on the funding if you don't have a plan for it. So you're right, Juanita. That's exactly what I'm saying. We can go to the next slide. So when we're talking about grant opportunities, because I know that's something that's going to be mentioned, and again, I don't want to take away from Dr. Jefferson's presentation, but again, what are your goals? What are your plans for your business? And again, this is a time for you to be assessing everything, your business model, your funding sources, potential funding sources. Here's an opportunity for you, just like people are doing on an individual level, for your business, reassessing, what am I trying to do? How can I make increase profits, lower expenses, lower my overhead? And is this a reasonable request? Does it make sense, right? Is my budgeting and accounting in place? Because again, that's where a lot of funding sources, that's the first thing they're going to want to look at is your financials. What's your plan for the money? How have you been accounting for your money so that we know you're going to be a good steward of what you're going to be giving? Yes, ma'am.
And I think this is the time when you're talking about budgeting and accounting, this is the time to throw out the fear that you may not have understood it, correct?
Exactly. This, as again, you want to use resources like West Side Development Center to help you, but you need to have a good understanding so you can help them help you of what you're trying to accomplish. Where do you see your business going? But also understanding the numbers, the cost. Again, you have a great idea for a great new launch or a program, but does it make business financial sense? And that's where right now is a good time to be assessing that. Also, your administrative and services. Do you have the right people in place to deploy your new project or continue business? These are things that you want to be assessing and really looking at as a business owner to make sure that you're positioning your company, your business in the right direction to really flourish once things come back online fully. Also, the return on the investment. If you invest in this, are you going to get the proper return that warrants the risk or the cost? So these are things that you really want to assess. And again, you want to take advantage of professionals that can help you in this arena, but it's your business. So the first question, they're going to ask you a lot of questions to assess, the viability of it. So you need to be prepared to answer those questions and ask those tough questions, of yourself. And we can go to the next slide. So again, when you talk about grants, they're going to ask you for a budget. Now, yes, you need your organizational budget and what your plans for the company, but they're going to want to know specifically what are your budget and what are your plans for this money that you're asking for, and will it be, again, used properly and have a positive impact, right? And so those are the things that you need to really map out and plan out. And again, there's resources like Westside Development that will help you in that endeavor, but it starts with you outlining, again, like when you say, understanding the numbers. That's something that you need to do as a business owner. And again, a lot of you may know this and have heard this before, but now is the time to really put these things in action. Because again, it's information is great and knowledge is great, but if we're not using it and putting it into practice, then it's really a waste. So you want to list other sources of income that could cover you if you didn't get this money, right? And it's great to have it, but what are your plans if the money doesn't come through? Do you still plan to continue this endeavor? Or will if this funding doesn't come through, then the endeavor or the project won't happen? These are things that you need to share and be able to detail with the grant provider or the funding sources, so they understand, again, what you plan to do with the money.
But before they get to this point, as you identified, Mr. Harvey, is go to organizations that you may have a phenomenal idea on what you want to do with this funding, but they might be able to restructure your idea and your program or business plan to where it's more beneficial. And you stated, you know, go to the professionals. And right now is the perfect time because you've got organizations that are wanting to leverage their knowledge and skills and experience. Some of them are even at no cost. So take full advantage of that. Is that correct?
Exactly. You want to take advantage of the resources that are available to you, most definitely. But again, you want to be in the best position so they could help you. So again, you want to have a good detailed plan of what you want to do and what your expectations are. So yes, they can come in with their expertise and kind of help you fine tune that, refine it so that it's in the best presentation for the grant or alternative funding sources, banks, or what have you, or even private investors, right? This is an opportunity for, again, if you lay out a plan that makes good business sense and is very viable, you'll be surprised at people who are willing to give you the money, support you, and invest in it. Because again, investors are looking for opportunities, always looking for opportunities to grow their money, especially in times like this, because it presents opportunities. So as a business owner, the more prepared you are, the more detailed accounts of what your plans are, the more detailed accounts of your past business or your past dealings, the better you're positioned to then take advantage of the funding that's out there and really stretch it and make it have the greatest impact for you and your business.
Absolutely.
So lastly here, again, like I said, Dr. Jefferson is going to talk more in detail about grants and those opportunities. But again, you want to make sure that in that budget that you need to create, that's always a part of a grant proposal, is, again, make sure you have an adequate accounting tool so that you can then show them what you plan to do and then what you've done with that money. Because again, in some cases, the grant provider is going to want to post report of what you did with the funds. So you want to make sure you have an adequate tool and tracking system for what you're going to do with those funds. Okay. And then we're talking about, again, both expenses and revenues from the money that's awarded, that will be or potentially awarded to you. You want to make sure you align the cost to what the grant and understand the details of what the grant's asking, so that you know that you have that you use the funds properly. Right. And so again, you want to make sure you tie the cost to, again, what you're saying you're going to do and what you can do with those funds and the impact it will have. It's always great to talk about the impact and what the money will do, not only for your business, but what it could possibly do for others in the community. So again, it has the greatest and lasting impact. And then list other sources of income for the cost, right, that you may need or shortfalls. Again, you always want to have a plan for the money. But once you go and ask for the money, make that way you know you're asking for what you really need and what you fully need, not what you think you need, or just because the grant says 1,000, you're going to take the whole 1,000. Make sure you have an accurate account for what you're going to do with that $1,000. And if you need, do you need the full 1,000 or do you need more? That's what you want to have detailed as part of your budget when you submit. So with that, like I said, again, these tools that I talked about may sound simple and commonplace, but sometimes common sense isn't common. Okay. And so we want to be prepared and make sure that we're in a place to take advantage of these opportunities that exist and be very a good steward of those resources so that, again, we have a great impact on your business, but also the community that you support.
Mr. Harvey, you said the key word, be a good steward. It's phenomenal being able to hear you. You are definitely educated, and you certainly motivated me to take another look at things, because when you're looking at from a emotional standpoint, it's not always beneficial for you or those that you're serving. You're telling us, you're educating us and directing us to look at it from someone who has an unbiased opinion, get the experts, really look at it on what you're going to be doing, not just for yourself, but for your community, right?
Exactly.
And during this time, it is, warranted to be extra cautious. It's easy to take on additional funding, but you have to have the foresight in the event that you have to maybe step back and decline, because this is not the perfect place. Mr. Harvey, I know that being an educator at Prairie View A&M, Texas A&M University, sometimes, especially during this time, is giving you the opportunity to educate. And I see that we have your contact information. As an educator, as a motivator, as someone who's invested in this community, what would you say would be one of the best things that you're doing, not just yourself, but as you're presenting, to benefit the community? Because I've been to Prairie View A&M, and it is a phenomenal institution.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's a great institution of higher learning. And again, our mantra and why we exist is to teach, serve, and research. And so this is a great time where all three are very paramount and needed. Again, continue to teach and educate our students and our community, which is, what we're here for today. Providing service, serving, providing resources, educating, young people about finances and taxes and understanding that piece. And then also doing research and trying to grab data to provide, more tested and tried practices and procedures that will work and help the community. So that's what Prairie View is about. That's what I'm about. And again, no better time than to do that than right now.
So you said research. I'm assuming that you're getting ready to develop some type of forward thinking on how some of these micro businesses are going to be needing support.
Yes, again, that's what myself and others like the SBDC on Prairie View's campus, we're looking at the data, capturing data to try to, again, see what's working, what's not working, so that, again, we can provide that information to the community so it can serve and be of greater use.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Ladies and gentlemen, as you hear, we're bringing these educated, professionals who have invested years and years and years into the community. And what better time right now is, we've looked at the financial institutions on how to support our businesses, what to do to apply, but you've got to think outside the box. And what I'm told is the gentleman that's coming up, as we're getting ready to talk about, critical tips on developing your grant proposal. This gentleman is known to be an out-of-the-box thinker. Dr. Jefferson, he is serving as the Director of Student Academics Services at Prairie View A&M University. His position provides leadership for all academic and support services and program in the Department of Student Academic Support Services. He's directly related to leadership and management. He has been a program director, a faculty coordinator, dean of student services, academic affairs dean, vice president of instruction, vice president of student development, which is affairs and services, and executive vice president of instruction and student services. The list goes on. And like I tell you, he is an out-of-the-box thinker. He's field of education, not just serving students, families, and his community. Dr. Jefferson, I am so thrilled to have you on here because this is an area that sometimes people don't think about. What are those tips?
Juanita, I'm going to take you with me everywhere I go and have you do every introduction anywhere I go, because I'm looking around like, I don't know who she's talking about. This guy sounds pretty good. But thank you. I appreciate you all having me. I'm not a business professional. Actually, my training is in biology, but I spend a lot of time working in grant programs, leading and managing grant programs. And on the other side of it, I've been a reader for federal and state level grant programs and looking at proposals coming in and kind of rating those and helping decide who gets funding or not. So this is more of a technical advice that I would give people who are looking for grant funding. And we're going to move fairly quickly, but I just kind of highlighted, the three areas I thought that really people have make the most mistakes in.
So first of all, let me toot your horn a little bit about that, okay? Right. You said your background is in biology, but here's the thing. You said something that was key, and I want to make sure our listeners are listening to this. You're an avid reader. I'm sure you probably picked up anything that got in your way and read it and understood it. You didn't just go past it. And that is why you're so passionate about making sure that the presentation you're doing about grants are read, understood, and executed to the best of their knowledge. And if they don't have it, you're going to direct them to some areas that they can get that information, right?
We're going to talk about this right now. So very good. I told you we need to go everywhere. So
let's go.
The fundamental parts of a proposal, and it depends on the grant funder and things like that, but usually it's 5 main parts. You have your introduction, You have your goals and your objectives, your plan of operation. Next, your budget, which Mr. Harvey just talked about, and your evaluation plan. Now, those are the general areas. It kind of gives and takes a little bit, but you can kind of break down any proposal to those areas. Next. And so we're going to talk about the 3 areas that really kind of stand out. First, let's talk about the goals and objectives. This is what you really need to spend a lot of time on. And the first thing you need to do is understand the difference between a goal and an objective. Many times an RFP will ask you, what are your goals of your proposal, and what are the objectives you're trying to reach? Your goals are just a generalized, the generalized idea of what you want to do. For example, if we want to help, small farmers, maximize their tax relief or something like that. So that's the generalized thing you want to do. A objective is something that's very specific and measurable that's going to help you meet your goal. So if we want to help small farmers, that's our goal. The objective would be that we want to meet with 50 small farmers within 2 months to discuss information with them. All right. So a general rule that I go by is an objective is what activity you want to do, to what degree, and what time frame. And I'll repeat that again. What activity, to what degree, and what time frame. I want to meet with 50 small farmers in a 2-month time frame. What I want to do, to what degree, to what time frame. That is a measurable objective. And so that is how you define your success. So when you're telling a funder, this is what I want to do, so judge me by this. And you can, at the end of that grant period, you can say, yes, I met with all 50 of my farmers in a 2-month time frame, and this is what we discussed. So I did the things. And so that lays out your criteria for success. And lastly, your objectives should always be tied to your evaluation plan. It's critical that when you lay out what you want to do, you have concrete, measurable objectives in there that someone can say, yes, they thought through this. It's well planned. They have concrete benchmarks that they want to meet to do with this funding I'm going to give them. Next slide, please. All right, budget. All right, budget is very, very important. I've seen really good proposals that don't have a good budget that did not get funded. All right, so first thing, and I will say this, make sure the budget makes sense. Sometimes you have a great proposal and the budget's all over the place. Make sure your budget is tied to your objectives. Once again, if you're going to go out and meet with 50 small farmers to discuss, whatever, program that you have with them, you want to serve them with, and you want to do that in a 2-month time frame, what are the budget items that you're going to need to spend money on to get that accomplished? You're going to need to drive to these small farms. They're all over the place, right? All over, Southeast Texas. So you're going to need probably to pay mileage to your staff. You're probably going to need to pay a salary to the people that's going to be going out and meeting with those small farmers. You're probably going to need a laptop to take with you if you don't already have one in the service that you're offering. You might need a wireless hotspot. Depending on where you are, there may not be wireless coverage. And so those things are tied directly to your activity that you're going to do. So when you write your proposal, make sure that your costs are directly tied to the things that you're going to be doing. Sometimes we talk to people in the organization. We have different branches of the organization. Some people may be working with small farmers. Some people may be with small business. Some people may be with entrepreneurs. And people say, oh, you're writing a grant? Write me in for this, write me in for that. And you have all these auxiliary activities that are not directly related to your proposal. And that really sticks out. All right. Make sure, and as was mentioned earlier, you have sound accounting. If you have, 1 + 2 + 3 = 10, when we read grants, we go through and we have either a spreadsheet or we have a calculator, and we sit there and we add up the numbers. If you have 1 + 2 + 3 = 10, and we know that 1 + 2 + 3 = 6, we say there's some accounting issues. Something isn't right. And if you can make it look if you can make it correct on your proposal, which should be your best foot forward, we're not really going to trust you once we actually get money in your account. All right.
And we know numbers do not lie.
Yes,
So
numbers
get the
don't lie.
numbers right.
Yes, exactly. And go back one slide, please. Only spend money on people that will be accountable for those activities. Once again, sometimes you say, well, you know, we're running out of money over here. We want to keep Mary Angela, but we ran out of funding. Could you add her to your grant? Well, she works on something totally different. And so you add that person in there and they be like, wait a minute, this person is not working on this grant. This person working over here. And I will tell you what we'll do sometimes as a rater. We'll go into your website and we'll look and see what people's job duties are based on what their titles are. And be like, no, this person over here doing this. Why do they have this person listed under the grant to get paid over here? Things like that. List in-kind support. So if, Mr. Poveda, if you're going to be the grant director, but you already work for the agency, the organization, but you're going to take that on as a part of your responsibility. Your salary is already paid, but you're going to take on additional responsibility of managing this grant, making sure all the objectives are made. So what you can do is you're going to spend 25% of your time managing the grant. That's going to already be part of your normal salary. You can write that into the grant as an in-kind contribution. You're not going to take any money out of this grant to manage it, but you're going to do that work. That shows that, as the old saying goes, the organization, your organization has a little skin in the game. You're not just trying to get money. You're kind of making this a part of what you do. And last but not least, get help when you need it. I've written, you know, about 15 grant proposals in my time. You win some, you lose some. It's like baseball. You strike out more than you hit. And I'm pretty good with budgets, but when I write a proposal, I go to someone that does this for a living. They do it every day. I go to the accounting office and say, look, this is what I'm trying to write. Does this make sense? Because they can look at things and just right off the bat, they can add those numbers up. See, oh, you need to move this over here. You can do this like this. They know accounting. Go get help. Don't feel like you need to do it all yourself and you need to be the most brilliant one in the world, put the whole proposal together. No, go get help. All right, next slide, please. All right, lastly, this is one of the most important areas, your evaluation plan. How do you know you're successful? We start with our objectives. What is going to be the roadmap to success? Your evaluation plan is tied to your objectives, all right? Tied to your, and I highlighted this, measurable objectives. You just don't want to say, I want to go help farmers. You want to say how many farmers you're going to help, in what time frame, what services, what are you going to do to prove that? Those things are measurable, all right? And you want to, in your evaluation plan, you want to highlight what steps and what information you need to collect to prove that you've been successful. To prove that you've been successful. So if I want to do a local, I want to help small farmers again, and I'm going to do a little town hall in the local square to give them information about the services that we have for them. When they come, they're going to sign in. So I'm going to collect those sign-in sheets. If there's going to be workshops I'm going to do with them, there's going to be a certain curriculum that's going to be attached to it. If I'm going to do advertise, there may be flyers, there may be electronic flyers, there may be physical flyers, it may be things I put on, old school, maybe things I put on the light poles or something like that. Say, hey, small farm, if you have a small farm, come get this information. You keep copies of that. If you're going to do a presentation, you're going to go out and meet with them one-on-one. You're going to take your laptop. You're going to run them through a brief presentation on these are the services that we can offer to you to help your small farm be more sustainable, so you can pass it on to the next generation. You keep a copy of that presentation. So anything that you do in the course of your work that will show that you actually have undertaken the activities that you said you were, you collect that. And that is part of your evaluation plan. So for every objective, you should have a way to evaluate whether or not you met those objectives. And this is kind of fancy terms, but it's real simple to think about. You should have formative and summative methods for evaluation. What is a formative method? It's those items and information you collect along the way. You collect the sign-in sheets, you collect the flyers, you collect, if you're doing phone calls, you do a call log, if you send them emails, you collect all that kind of stuff along the way. And that is kind of showing, yes, we have done all those activities. A summative evaluation is those things that we all familiar about that you collect at the end of your activities. When you go online or you call your cell phone company and say, hey, my cell phone's not working, I can't get it to do this, I can't get it to do that. Then you have a conversation, then you hang up the phone. And about 5 minutes later, you get a text message or you get an email saying, how was your service? Was the representative able to help you? Were they friendly? Yeah. That's a summative evaluation. So at the end of that, you may send something out to all the people you help and say, how was our services? Did it help you? Was it valuable to you? Was it a good use of your time? That end of service survey is a summative evaluation. So you want to have a mix of both. Things that you collect along the way and the thing that you do at the end. Next slide, please. And last thoughts. No proposal terminology. For example, many people say, I'm going to write a grant. No, you're going to write a proposal or you're going to write a grant proposal. The grant is the actual award. The proposal is what you're going to write. So knowing those kind of terminology. Number two, review the RFP, the request for proposals. And sometimes they call it request for funding. They got different terminology. But read that in detail. Why do you want to read that in detail? And a lot of it is boring and boilerplate, I will tell you. You read it in detail because it will tell you what size font they want sometimes, the margins, the number of pages. If they say they only want 35 pages from you, you write 36. Guess what? They're not going to read it. They have someone that screens all the proposals. They'll throw it out. In times like this, when money is short, money is limited, and a lot of people are going after grant funding, it becomes the first step for the funders is to eliminate people. And it is just the harsh reality of what it is. If they have enough money for 25 people, 100 people apply, they have to figure out how to get rid of 75 people. So the first thing they do is go and look for who broke the rules. We said, we wanted 50 pages. Who wrote over 50 pages? It's gone. We said we wanted 12 font and these kinds of fonts. Oh, this person wrote 14. She's gone. We said we want 1-inch margins all around. This person had 1/2-inch margins all around. That person's gone. And they whittle it down. And so make sure you read the RFP to know, what are the rules. Research the funder. So if you're looking at a funder and you know that they're technologically based and they like to fund, projects around technology, and you want to do something about gardening, that may not be in that funder's wheelhouse. Look for funders that are aligned with what you do.
Specific funders, yep.
Specific funders, research them, figure out what they're about and what they funded before. Sometimes they have a list of other projects they funded on their website. Go see if there's a theme there. Follow directions and proofread, a big thing. Go through your proposal, do spell check, do Grammarly, give it to somebody else outside of yourself who's been writing the grant and say, go read this. Sometimes in our mind, and as educators, we see this all the time, you are reading a paper so much that your mind automatically corrects things that are maybe mistakes. Give it to someone else. Let them go there and say, what do you mean by this? This isn't clear. Proofread, proofread, proofread. Your proposal is your first introduction. It's your formal presentation to them. If you have grammar mistakes, misspelled words, things like that, it leaves a bad taste in the funder's mouth, and they may not want to fund you. You don't want to miss out on a great idea because it's not well written. Some people are idea people. They can get the idea down, but then go give it to somebody that can kind of put some shape to that, get some help. And I think that is it. I think that's it. Oh, and lastly, but not least, do not procrastinate. If it's due on Friday, May 8th, have your proposal done by the 5th. That way you can sit on it for a day and turn it in a couple of days early. Do not procrastinate. Sometimes you have to go through a process to be eligible to submit your proposal. So sometimes the process is you have to register with us, you put in your information, it comes to us, we send you back a password and a login, and that may take a couple of days to do. If you wait till the last minute, you realize like, oh, there's more to the process, you may blow it. And lastly, ask for help. You don't have to do this by yourself. Ask for help. Now I'm done.
You know what? You have a wealth of knowledge, and you're absolutely right. That let's focus on the afterthoughts right now, because, you know, I read a book on the problem with math is vocabulary, and you definitely taught on terminology. So yes, if you do not understand something on that proposal, Google it, get a dictionary, find out exactly what it is. Those RFPs are detailed. Dr. Johnson, you know, when we talk about these details about these RFPs, and you talk about the funders and their focus, those details, how detrimental are they?
They can be the difference between your proposals being read and not being read. If there's a detail in there, if there's a direction as far as page, and something as simple as page numbers are the kind of font you should use.
Right.
You violate that, they won't even read it. I mean, it's simple as that. If a lot of proposals come in, the first thing we do is eliminate as many as possible. And then we move forward with the reading.
Dr. Jefferson, before we move forward into the questions, the Q&A, I want to make sure that our listeners know that if you want to hear this recording or you want this information, please, please, please email Mari at maestrocenter.org, because we want to share this knowledge with you. And I'm sure Mari's going to put that, there you go. So really quick, we've got a couple of questions I want to ask. We already touched on some of the decisions that we've made as far as, you know, how the grants are provided. But when you start looking at a fund, you said go to the funder specifically and what you're actually going to be targeting. So the other thing too is, how do you locate some of these funders and grants? What are some of the things that you need to take a look at? Dr. Jefferson.
Okay. Google is our friend. Number one, it really is. I teach a course on grant writing, and I take them to have them go on Google and they look up, you know, development agencies. And every major Fortune 500 company has a philanthropic wing, and you can kind of go through and look at, you know, organizations. There's small business associations. That is a storehouse for local grants that come through states, to go through federal, come through counties. And that is a place that you can go, small business authorities and associations like yourselves. And that is a storehouse for places. There is different, I do a lot of federal grants. And so if you, depending on what your area is, like Department of Education is where I go to quite a bit, Department of Labor, depending on what your background is, Department of Commerce, and they have a plethora of information about, you know, funding opportunities. Some of them for small business, some of them for medium-sized business, some of them for large business, but there's a lot of resources out there. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I thought you all had a list of, you know, where you can get. Oh, it's right there.
Yes.
So
yes.
good.
Yes.
There we go.
We're gonna move forward with the list, and I think Lloyd is gonna walk us through some of these opportunities available currently for small business. So, Lloyd.
Yes. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Again, I am Lloyd Wright. I am the director of the Prairie View A&M University Small Business Development Center. Before I jump into my slides, just for everyone's own personal resource, a good website if you're looking to do or to apply for federal grants will be grants.gov. That's grants.gov. That is a repository of all the federal agencies and all the notices of funding opportunities for all the grants that we put out on the federal level. So just FYI that.
Grants.gov. I'm putting it on the chat right now, Mr. Lloyd.
Okay, perfect. And so, yes, so as we start looking at grants and other alternative funding solutions, especially during such a trying time right now, there are a number of different resources that we wanted to make available to our clients as well as to the greater small business community, as well as HEB, supplier diversity customers. We do know right now the payroll protection program did run out of money approximately a week ago, but they have since added additional funds to the program. However, we do know that that's probably still not going to be enough. And so based on that, we want to provide you with some additional resources that you might be able to tag into to get funding. We are telling our clients and customers right now that one of the best things that will serve you during this time is being adaptive and creative. We see a number of different businesses that have pivoted in their services and products that they offer. And that's one of the things that we're encouraging our customers to do and our clients to do, to kind of think outside of the box. We know of distilleries that are here locally that are no longer making alcohol, but have since pivoted into the hand sanitizer and gel sanitizer space. So we're looking at companies like that, and we're encouraging people to be creative. Similarly, we have clothing manufacturers, things like that. People have put those things on hold, have gone to the protective wear manufacturing, things like that. So we're encouraging people to be adaptive and creative and think outside the box when it comes to funding your business. We also want to recommend that you have a balanced funding approach. So don't put all of your eggs in one basket, if you will, with your own current business bank or a new banking relationship. There are a number of other resources out there that can help you kind of close the gap, if you will. If you go to your bank and you are, for whatever reason, denied, you will be able to actually make up some additional funds through grants that are out there. And lastly, we want to make sure that you leverage technology to help you find your money for your mission. And so, as I mentioned, grants.gov is a good resource, but then we also have Grant Space that lists a number of different grant opportunities that are coming available daily. Next slide, please. So I'll be providing you with some financial resources, but real quick, just want to throw in a few disclaimers that the university or myself nor the SBDC, we aren't making any grants or giving out any donations. This is just really information for you to better equip you to deal with the current business climate and hopefully continue to expand and grow your business during these times. This is just for, again, all of our partners. We're here just to share information and encourage the small businesses to reach out to not only myself, if you are in the Waller and Grimes County Small Business Development Center area, but also for the San Antonio Small Business Development Center as well. Next slide, please. So again, I'm just going to go through a few of these. Again, Grant Space is kind of like the broad website that will kind of take into that will also capture a lot of these sites that we have listed. But a few of these on the slide that I'm going to highlight would definitely be TWU for women entrepreneurs. So that's a lot of things. Those are a lot of areas or specialty areas that sometimes get overlooked. So if you are a woman business owner, TWU does have a great emergency assistance grant program for women business owners. Similarly with Amber Grants for Women. So those are two that are strictly just women related. So if you are again, a woman business owner, I would encourage you to visit those two websites.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Amber Grant just doubled their award for the month of, I believe, April and possibly May.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yes.
So they did get some more funding. Great. So then also on this slide, I wanted to point out two things here. Cabbage has been for a while, so I would encourage you, because they are offering loans up to $2 million in funding through Cabbage. Another thing that I think a lot of small businesses have overlooked and have forgotten about is that probably, I don't know, 70–80% of all small businesses probably use QuickBooks or some form of it. And they do have assistance that is available to business owners as well. So again, that may be something that you've overlooked. I'm sure, just like I said, maybe around 70–80% of all business owners use QuickBooks. Take advantage of it. So there's their link there as well. On the next slide, please. Yes, on the next slide, again, I think people forget about PayPal and Square. Those are your credit card, your debit card processors. And they also have grants that are available and other small business loans. So again, we just want to provide you with some other things, some other opportunities that you kind of overlook, that you just kind of get so caught up in the day-to-day operations of your business, you don't think about these other companies that do have capital available to you. And just as Dr. Jefferson mentioned, every major corporation has some type of philanthropic arm to them. So don't be afraid to reach out to them, use Google and kind of find out, what kind of funds they have available for you as well. Next slide, please. Yes, and then so on this one, I would recommend that you take a look at the first one, Fundera. It is an aggregator, so it will not only take your online application, but will kind of point you in the right direction of the bank that does have the bandwidth to actually process your application. We've heard the horror stories now of banks running out of money or banks not dealing with non-customers right now. Fundera is really offering a great service to kind of help businesses kind of navigate that as well. So I would encourage you to visit their website and apply there as well. Next slide. And then lastly, for here in the Houston area, I wanted to give some more local resources of banks that we have kind of been able to research and do know that at least at the time of preparing this presentation, they did have funds available. So we would encourage you just to kind of take a look on their website or give them a call just to kind of verify that they are still accepting applications. But we do have, of course, Unity National Bank, which is located near the medical center. Third Coast Bank is very aggressive and working very hard right now. I did see a press release earlier that Third Coast is really still putting out the PPP loans. So I would encourage you to check out Third Coast Bank. And they're not only taking existing customers, so new customers can even also apply to Third Coast as well.
Wood Forest as well here in San Antonio. I found out that they're taking applications as well still.
Oh, cool.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Third Coast. They have a outstanding customer service, which I think a lot of people are appreciating right now during this time. And as always, if if you need more information or if you need assistance in preparing a business plan, preparing your financials for the application process, anything associated with the SBA loan programs or growing your existing business, we're here to help you. So reach out to us at Prairie View A&M SBDC if you are in the Waller and Grimes area, or if you are in Houston, we can make the referral to you as well.
And on that note, let's go to the next slide. Mr. Wright mentioned SBDC. Mr. Wright, you're absolutely right. See, there's some industry-specific grants that sometimes we overlook. This is where we need to get really resourceful. Is that correct, sir?
That is very correct, and that's what we're here to help.
Yes. And we're going to be sharing these slides. If you email me at mari@maestrocenter.org, I'm going to be emailing the slides so you can just click on the various links because we have done the research for you. So we'll make sure to send me an email and we'll make sure we get those slides to you.
Audience, you need to doing their best. So reach out to your community.
And now Ruben Lopez. Ruben
Yes.
Lopez from SBDC in San Antonio. He's going to cover his slide and what's available in the San Antonio area.
Absolutely.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Ruben Lopez here, Assistant Director with the University of Texas San Antonio Small Business Development Center. Just really quickly, I know we're running out of time, but in general, you know, we talked about the PPP and the EIDL. Those funds are going to run out pretty soon. If you don't have your application in already, you may not get funded this round. But here are some other sources you can go to. Basically, look at your industry. Every industry has a trade association, an industry association. There may be some grants, scholarships available to your industry. There's a couple of examples here. The Texas Restaurant Association has a relief fund. You can apply for I believe it's a grant through them. There was a scholarship for hairdressers. I think one of the hairdresser suppliers was providing a $1,000 grant to hairdressers in the industry. And then sort of related to funding, use this downtime right now where we're not really fully open to do some training, maybe have get a grant through the Texas Workforce Commission. Or so if you get a grant through the Texas Workforce Commission, you have to write a grant. Some nonprofits have already written the grant, they've already received the money, and they're providing training. So again, look in your industry what's available to train your employees since you have downtime right now. Code Up, that's the San Antonio Code Up provides coding training yourself or for your employees. Another option, again, I don't know if we made the disclaimer already. We're not here to provide financial advice. Make sure you talk to your CPA and financial advisor. But one of the resources you can access is an IRA or a 401k. Right now, because of the COVID virus, you're allowed to take out up to $100,000 from a 401k or an IRA without penalty, and you have up to 3 years to pay it back or redeposit the money. So any kind of COVID hardship, you can use that type of or that money for that type of use. Really, again, just uses downtime to do some other things. Maybe work on your web page. Maybe work on an e-commerce site. We always tell business owners, work on your business, not in it. Now's a good time to do that. Maybe look at doing process improvements. Maybe finding alternative vendors. Maybe you found out during this COVID crisis that maybe you couldn't get supplies. Maybe have an alternate vendor, look for those. Find allies and partners. Again, maybe if you're a restaurant, you didn't have a delivery service, maybe now's the time to try to find one for, hopefully we don't have another issue, but just use this downtime to find new allies and new partners. And that's all I have. We're available to provide no cost, confidential one-on-one advising. We have 8 advisors at the UTSA downtown campus. And we also have training. Our training right now is remote. We have some online training, and we're looking at providing some live online training shortly. So keep checking with our website. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Lopez, that is the perfect segue for me to go into our next area. And of course, like you said, sometimes you have to make those adjustments for your community because especially what we're addressing. Mari, thank you so much for putting on our community partners. See, here are the nuggets that we were talking about. You got lender information. And I do want to state, this information is for the purpose that you want to contact them and get information. But Mr. Lopez, you said, you may come into a distributor or a product, and who better than to bring on at this time than HEB, because what have they done? Mrs. Real, where are you, ma'am? Educate us on what HEB is doing to support our community, because you've extended that deadline, have you not?
Yes, we have, Juanita. Yes, we have. Hello, everybody in small business land. Thank you to our panelists. All of you have been absolutely amazing. You have stepped up to the plate, and you have truly given us the information that we requested and over and beyond that. So we thank you from the bottom of our heart. You really have just completely outdone yourselves. I want to talk about Quest for Texas Best. Most people know about it, and usually it has ended by now. But as of COVID-19, we have extended that deadline for your submissions. So the deadline now is May 31st, 4:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to repeat that. May 31st, 4:59 Central Standard Time is the cutoff date for you to do your submissions. Anytime after that, 5 o'clock, it's over. So make sure you get those in. And as you can see, there's a timeline for 2020. And go back one slide for me, Mari. That is going to be your website, www.heb.com/quest. Please submit. We are also taking non-food as well as food submissions. So it is open to the public. Please go in and submit your request. And for those that want to become suppliers for HEB, we hear you, and we hear you loud and clear. And here's also our website to become a supplier with HEB. It walks you through everything that you need to answer, as well as if you are a minority-owned business, a small business owner, veteran-owned, women-owned. It will walk you completely through all the requirements that you need to submit to become a supplier. And that portal is accessible to HEB land. So our buyers and our global sourcers. So please do go to both websites, submit your products, and submit to be a supplier. We welcome you in HEB land in Texas. We love you. Thank you again to the Maestro Center. Thank you to Juanita. You are amazing. Thank you to Prairie View University, Dr. Jefferson, and also as well as
Mr. Wright, Mr.
yes,
Lopez.
Dan Harvey. Thank you. Thank you to the West Side Development Center, Lloyd, Wright, Jasmine, all of you, every last one of you. This information was pertinent, and we bring it back to you, and we hope that you will join us again, because this is the kind of information that the public needs to hear. So I commend you, and HEB thanks you for being a part of this.
Well, you know, I love the initials HEB, because here everything is better and we're continuing to improve it. You know, we know this, corporates, you know, education institutions, Dr. Jefferson, Mr. Harvey, Mr. Wright, Mr. Lopez, Mr. Gonzalez, you know, you took the time out of your busy day, because right now you would think you'd have more time, but the pace has picked up because we're trying to make sure we educate you, thank you, support you, and you have that ear that you're able to get that information for. Again, thank you, the Maestro Entrepreneur Center, HEB, you know, BBVA, Wells Fargo, VIA, for being our sponsors, but our supporters that said, let me give you that information and let's continue to grow. Let's stay ahead of this, which we are. Tree Shaker Podcast has been so honored to be able to support this and continue to grow. Mari, the Maestro Entrepreneur Center, you know, has definitely been visionaries and continue to grow. And ladies and gentlemen, come back, because we're still having this in Spanish. We've got it in Spanish. And next week, Mari, tell them about next week too.
Next week is huge. So next week is Small Business Week nationwide, and we're launching this initiative, the Buy Local Grow SA website. So keep an eye on to register and be part of that. But next week, we're going to bring you business owners to talk to you about their strategies and how they have survived through these times. So please stay tuned, because you want to hear from other entrepreneurs and what they're doing so that you can rethink your strategy, and what better way to learn from, but for others that are in the game as you are. So we're really excited for next week's session. And I really thank you wholeheartedly to all of our speakers today and panelists, because all this information is really valuable, and I can't thank everybody enough. And next, I'm going to be doing the session in Spanish. So with all your permission, I've been absorbing all this information, and now I'm going to provide it in Spanish for our Spanish speakers. So thank you everyone for joining us today.
And our audience for being here.
I want to also do one more thing. I want to remind our audience of our SBDCs, especially of our SBDCs, our economic development centers, as well as our entrepreneurial centers. Those are your resources. People hear me say this all the time. Use your resources, use your resources, use your resources. They're regional, they're localized, and they're there waiting for your help. So make sure that you are utilizing those, as Dr. Jefferson has made very clear. Lloyd has made very clear, as well as Mr. Harvey. I thank you both for that information. And then also, Romero, we thank you for being there for our entrepreneurs. So I just wanted to end with that we have so many beautiful resources online. I want to remind our listeners and those that are this webinar, that's what they're there for. That is what they do. So make sure you're using them and using them wisely. And with that, I say bye.
Well, with no further ado, es tiempo para comenzar en español. Mari.
Yes,
lista.
Before we start, really quickly, before we start in English again, please email me if you want this presentation, or if you have further questions. Since we ran a little bit out of time, please email me your questions. I'll make sure to answer them the best way possible, and I'll refer you to the best resource that's available out there for you. So please email me at mari@maestrocenter.org. Thank you. Ahora vamos a comenzar en español.
Y vamos a comenzar.
Bienvenidos. Bienvenidos todos a nuestro Webinar Wednesday de esta semana. Hoy vamos a hablar de fuentes de financiamiento y más. Vamos a hablar sobre recursos que hay disponibles para ustedes en sus áreas y también otros recursos que no solamente son del SBA, pero también otras fuentes de financiamiento disponibles para ustedes. Hoy nuestros panelistas no hablan español, entonces yo voy a estar traduciendo, pero muchísimas gracias a todos los que han participado. Tenemos a Ramiro González de Westside Development Corporation, Ruben López de SBDC San Antonio y University of Texas at San Antonio, Donnie Harvey de Prairie View A&M University, Dr. Patrick Jefferson, Prairie View A&M University también, Lord Wright también con SBDC, Prairie View University Houston, y Juanita, nuestra moderator hoy. Muchísimas gracias por dedicar su tiempo y por estar hoy con nosotros para presentarles esta información y estos recursos. Antes de comenzar, quiero agradecer de corazón a nuestro apoyo incondicional. HEB ha sido nuestro apoyo número 1, igual como Wells Fargo, BBVA y VIA. Muchísimas gracias por su apoyo. Sin su apoyo esto no podría ser posible, pero también a toda la gente que nos está ayudando con la información, que nos está ayudando a traer esta información hacia ustedes, como lo es el Westside Development Corporation, todas las cámaras de comercio y todos los otros recursos que hay disponibles para ustedes. Muchísimas gracias. Y ahora vamos a comenzar. Les voy a hablar un poquito sobre el Westside Development Corporation. Sí, Juanita.
Mari, pero ¿sabes qué? La cosa que tenemos es, tenemos la oportunidad a poner a ser humanos, educar y soportar en la manera que probablemente no podía presentarlo. Como dices tú, está Ramiro González que está presentando la información. Es verdad, la mayoría de panelistas no pueden hablar español, pero todavía tienen la dedicación para presentar la información.
Sí,
gracias,
claro.
Le agradecemos.
Sí, muchísimas gracias. Y aparte de presentar esta información, la mayoría de estas organizaciones tienen personal que sí habla español y que está dispuesto a ayudarles a ustedes si es que tienen necesidad y necesitan este recurso. Así que cualquier cosa que necesiten y si no pueden comunicarse directamente con ellos, envíenme un correo electrónico y yo con gusto les encuentro esa información y esos recursos para poder ayudarles a ustedes. Les quería hablar un poquito sobre el Westside Development Corporation. Ha sido una corporación que el gobierno local la creó en la ciudad de San Antonio en el 2006 y es una organización de desarrollo económico y comunitario. Ellos están aquí para ayudarles a ustedes a desarrollarse económicamente y quería hablar sobre algunos programas que ellos tienen actualmente para poder ayudarles con ustedes financieramente. Ellos también ayudan y ¿qué hacen ellos? Ellos desarrollan pequeñas empresas, tienen préstamos y subvenciones, tienen asistencias técnicas, alianzas empresariales. O sea, ellos les pueden ayudar no solo con el dinero, la parte financiera, pero también les pueden ayudar con otros recursos. Entonces, si su negocio se ubica en el oeste de San Antonio, por favor, pónganse en comunicación con esa organización porque ellos están disponibles y dispuestos a ayudarles. Ellos ahorita están dando un préstamo de ayuda de $5,000, que si ustedes no han tenido ninguna ayuda financiera hasta ahorita, este préstamo se convierte en ayuda, o sea, es perdonable. Entonces, si ustedes no han conseguido ningún otro tipo de recurso financiero ahorita durante COVID-19, ustedes pueden aplicar para poder, para estos $5,000 de ayuda. También ellos hacen alcance de pequeñas empresas, ellos evalúan las necesidades comerciales, ellos los conectan con recursos a ustedes sociales para el desarrollo de su cartera de negocios sin asistencia. Si usted no tiene una cuenta de banco o usted no tiene sus finanzas en orden, ellos también los pueden ayudar para que ustedes puedan ser elegibles para esta ayuda financiera. Entonces, cualquier cosa que ustedes necesiten sobre esto, ellos están dispuestos y disponibles a ayudarles. Y este es el contacto directo de Ramiro González. Él es el CEO de Westside Development Corporation. Ellos están disponibles para ayudarles. Y repito, si ustedes necesitan la ayuda para traducir algún correo electrónico, para buscar este tipo de ayudas, por favor, también siéntanse cómodos de mandarme un correo electrónico. Y saben que también les voy a dejar mi número de teléfono. Si a un caso ustedes quisieran llamarme directamente, mi número telefónico, Juanita, si lo puedes escribir en el chat para que esté disponible, es 210-693-8345. 210-693-8345. Entonces, Juanita,
Lista.
gracias por compartir eso. Usualmente
Pero
no
sabes,
comparto mi número de teléfono en webinars, pero en esta ocasión sí lo voy a hacer porque sí quiero poder ayudarles de la mejor manera posible.
pero Mari, también lo que comunicó Ramiro es que también están disponibles a dirigirlos. Por ejemplo, hay institutos financieros que no tienen la oportunidad a soportar, pero no quieren decir que no pueden dirigirlos a otros institutos que pueden darle avisos, le pueden dar instrucciones, le pueden dar para la manera que pueden presentar sus negocios. No nomás miren a Westside Development Corporation como si fuera nomás un instituto que nomás ya terminó, ¿verdad? Tienen la educación para presentar la información, no nomás solo para ellos, pero también sobre San Antonio. Hay otras organizaciones que te pueden educar. So, no nomás esperen a quedarse nomás en ese lugar, pero hay diferentes maneras que pueden dirigir la información. Si no se pueden asistir allí, hay otras organizaciones con que ellos trabajan.
Sí, es correcto, Juanita. Entonces, úsenlos como sus recursos. Y Ramiro mencionó en la charla previamente que si usted necesita ayuda, o sea, ellos antes de ayudarle necesitan analizar su negocio, ya sea que esté haciendo bien, que estén haciendo dinero, o que están teniendo pérdidas, o que están pasando por un mal momento, cualquier cosa que en la posición que ustedes están, ellos quieren analizar y ellos quieren escuchar para ver de qué manera les pueden ayudar. ¿Cierto, Juan?
Es verdad, porque la información que se presenta no se puede aplicar a todas las empresas y toda organización. Cada negocio, cada empresa, cada organización tiene sus propias ideas, tienen sus propias presentaciones y la necesidad que presenta así aquí en su comunidad. Entonces, denles oportunidad para que puedan hacer un análisis de lo que están ustedes van a necesitar y la manera que están presentando el soporte que ustedes o organización dan a la comunidad. So, hay diferentes tipos de educación que pueden recibir aquí con Westside Development Corporation. Y no tengan miedo a hacerles a las preguntas. En este momento, tengan, ¿cómo se dice? Sean courageous, ¿cómo se dice?
No tengan pena, tengan ánimos y puedan, o sea, si quieren preguntar cualquier cosa, por favor, solo envíennos sus preguntas y que nosotros estamos disponibles para ayudar.
Sí, este es el momento que hagan la pregunta. Cualquier pregunta, porque ahorita, y si no reconocen qué pregunta que pueden hacer, comiencen con una, porque va a dirigir la manera que probablemente ustedes no entendieron la pregunta que de un banco o una organización que le estaban haciendo. Son programas que quieren educarles para que ustedes puedan entender y para sostenerse entre este tiempo.
Muchísimas gracias, Juanita.
Vamos a seguir y avanzar.
Ahora vamos a dar la presentación que dio Mr. Harvey de Prairie View A&M University. Él es motivador financiero y educador. O sea, él es una persona que tiene mucho conocimiento en el área de finanzas y él nos dejó un par de recursos, pero también tips para que ustedes puedan organizarse financieramente y para poder aplicar a estos recursos más allá.
Pues Mari, como dices tú, esos son tips que en realidad en veces nosotros no pensamos. Y como estamos comenzando otro, que dice, otra carrera, en la manera que estamos viendo nuestro negocio, tenemos que educarlos en la manera que vamos a poder vivir. Y eso es lo que estamos haciendo, es vivir la manera para iniciar organizaciones y nuestros negocios también.
Claro que sí, Juanita. Y ahorita vamos a hablar sobre la salud financiera de tu negocio y lo importante que es. Ahorita todo el mundo está hablando de conseguir efectivo, conseguir dinero, aplicar a dinero. Pero antes de que ustedes vayan atrás de ese dinero, ustedes tienen que saber exactamente dónde se encuentra su negocio ahorita financieramente. Su salud financiera es lo más importante. Y puede ser que tú no necesites ese dinero ahora. Entonces, ¿por qué lo vas a sacar? ¿Por qué vas a sacar un préstamo que luego vas a tener que pagar más dinero para poder pagarlo? ¿Por qué vas a aplicar a un préstamo que no necesitas? O sea, por eso es tan importante entender cuál es la salud financiera de tu negocio, dónde te encuentras y de qué manera puede ser esto más bien una ayuda en vez de perjudicarte en un futuro. Entonces, es súper, súper importante saber dónde estás ahorita, ahora, en este momento, y a dónde quieres llegar. Hay que saber exactamente cómo se encuentra el flujo de efectivo o el flujo de caja, cuánto dinero tienes en tus manos, cuáles son tus gastos, cuáles son tus ingresos. Y dependiendo de eso vas a identificar exactamente cuánto dinero necesitas o si en verdad no necesitas más dinero. Y también ahorita estamos hablando muchísimo de que Texas va a empezar a abrir todos sus negocios y que solo el 25% de su capacidad van a poder operar, pero quizá este 25% no cubre todos los gastos que tú tienes como overhead, o sea, todo el gasto inicial quizá no es una buena idea para abrir tu negocio en estos momentos, porque quizá los costos sean más altos de lo que en verdad vas a producir con ese 25% de capacidad. Entonces hay que entender bien dónde se encuentra tu negocio en estos momentos. También cómo se encuentra tu demografía empresarial y tu estrategia y qué va a ser, cuáles van a ser las mejores decisiones para poder avanzar. ¿Y por qué necesitas más? Porque ya lo mencionamos, ¿por qué necesitas más dinero? Eso tiene que estar bien claro y tienes que saber exactamente por qué vas a pedir ese dinero. Y no solo porque alguien está ofreciendo $5,000 para poder ayudar a tu negocio. ¿En verdad necesitas los $5,000 o solo necesitas 1,000?
Claro.
Tienes que saber exactamente cuánto necesitas antes de aplicar. ¿Correcto, Juanita?
Sí, Mari. Y sabes que en este momento esa decisión es difícil, hacer una decisión que en realidad no pides ese préstamo, no recibes más dinero, y más aplicaciones, más préstamos. En veces uno tiene que hacer la decisión que no, déjame parar, hacer un análisis, a ver cómo que vamos a hacer, y en realidad es el beneficio para tomarlos. Vamos a seguir, Mari.
Claro que sí. Muchísimas gracias, Juanita. Sigamos con la siguiente slide. ¿Cómo están tus finanzas actualmente? Eso es lo que mencionábamos. Hay que tener un control sobre las finanzas. Y mensualmente tenés que analizar cuáles son tus ganancias versus tus pérdidas, saber exactamente qué está entrando y qué está saliendo. También si tienes acceso a crédito. Si no tienes acceso a crédito y tu crédito no está muy bien ahorita, pues también hay recursos para eso. Hay gente que te ayuda y si en verdad necesitas el financiamiento, pero tu crédito no está ahí todavía o tu credit score no está estable o no está donde tú quieres que esté, hay otros recursos que también te proveen ese financiamiento a pesar de que tu crédito no está muy bien. También hay que conocer tus costos. Eso es clave. Hay que conocer cuáles son tus costos iniciales, cuáles son tus costos que no se van. Y si abres tu negocio, por ejemplo, si tienes un restaurante y abres tu restaurante ahorita que ya puedes abrir, pero igual tenés que pagar la luz, tenés que pagar todas tus utilidades, esos van a ser costos fijos. Y hay que analizar si es una decisión correcta ahorita, ya que su su negocio solo puede operar el 25%. Entonces, ¿hace sentido esto de poder abrir mi negocio si mis costos van a ser los mismos? O sea, ¿hace sentido esto? Hay que analizarlo bien para ver si es una buena opción y una buena decisión. Y también hay que tener un costo proyectado para este nuevo proyecto. O sea, si ustedes están pidiendo dinero, si ustedes están aplicando para tener estos recursos financieros adicionales, ¿cuál es tu costo proyectado para este nuevo proyecto? Es súper importante saberlo para que tú puedas saber en dónde van a ir esos fondos y dónde van a ser ubicados. También hay que conocer tus objetivos y tu solicitud tiene que ser razonable. Si tu negocio está operando, digamos que tienes un presupuesto de $100,000 y hay un financiamiento de 300,000 disponibles, ¿por qué vas a pedir esos 300,000 si tu budget inicial eran 100,000? Entonces hay que entender bien cuáles son esos números y no pedir más de lo que necesitas. Y hay que tener esos presupuestos y tener tu contabilidad en orden. Ahorita más que nunca es súper importante tener tu contabilidad y tener todos los números en orden. Y si no los tienes en orden, hay organizaciones que están dispuestas a ayudarte con eso, como es el SPDC. Ruben está en la llamada. Ellos tienen un montón de programas de QuickBooks que les pueden ayudar para que su contabilidad esté en orden. Y también hay que analizar el retorno de la inversión. ¿Qué voy a sacar de este financiamiento? ¿Vale la pena? ¿Estoy tomando la mejor decisión? Todas estas son cosas que tenemos que analizar.
Y no, también, pero otra cosa también, Mari, son preguntas que nos van a hacer y tenemos que tener la información lista en avanzada, porque cuando nos preguntan, hay tantos negocios en este momento o organización que también están buscando para poder recibir el soporte para poder avanzar. Tiene uno que estar listos, tiene uno que tener todo en orden y para poder contestar todas las preguntas que tienen.
Claro que sí. Y antes de ir a una institución financiera, ellos les van a pedir todos esos documentos. Y es muy importante que usted entienda dónde está y cuál es el clima de sus finanzas para tener más oportunidades de conseguir este financiamiento. También hay que tener detalles del programa o costos del proyecto que usted está aplicando. Si usted va a aplicar para financiamiento, usted tiene que justificar para qué va a usar esos fondos. ¿Cuál es su proyecto? ¿Cuál es su visión a largo plazo? ¿Cuál es su visión a corto plazo? ¿Y cómo dará frutos ese financiamiento que usted está solicitando? También hay que crear un presupuesto para aplicar a una subvención. Cuando uno aplica una subvención o grant, que un montón de personas lo conocen como un grant, hay que elegir las herramientas que usted va a usar. Hay que incluir los gastos y ingresos. O sea, todo eso es súper importante incluirlo. O sea, si no incluimos esto, es muy difícil que consigamos ese financiamiento. Hay que asegurarse que los costos sean relevantes con su narrativa, que lo que su proyecto y su objetivo tiene que igualar los números y la suma de financiamiento que usted está aplicando. Y hay que enumerar otras fuentes de ingresos, los costos no cubiertos por la subvención solicitada. También ustedes tienen que decir como, no, yo también estoy poniendo dinero, o sea, ¿cuánto dinero vas a poner tú en este proyecto? Para que ellos vean que usted también está dedicado y que también usted está arriesgando parte de su dinero para poder solicitar este ingreso adicional. Así que si ustedes invierten en sus propios negocios, entonces les da un poco más de solvencia y también les da un poco más de comodidad a estas instituciones para que ellos estén seguros de que esos fondos van a ser utilizados de la mejor manera posible. Y aquí está el contacto de Danny Harvey. Él fue el que presentó esta información. Si alguien necesita información adicional, por favor, mándenme un correo a mí y yo les puedo traducir y puedo hacer esa conexión. Así que si ustedes necesitan más información sobre tu salud financiera y de dónde se encuentra tu negocio, por favor, háganos saber lo que nosotros le vamos a conseguir la ayuda necesaria. ¿Correcto, Juanita?
Claro que sí. Y sabes que aunque no puedan hablar español, ellos tienen unos recursos que pueden contestarlos. El programa de Prairie View A&M es para hacer educar su comunidad, la familia, sus estudiantes, para que entiendan lo que está sucediendo en este momento.
Ahora vamos a seguir con consejos claves para desarrollar tu propuesta de subvención o grant writing. Si ustedes porque ahorita hay un montón de oportunidades para aplicar para grants o subvención en español. Si ustedes quieren aplicar para estos grants, que es financiamiento que ustedes no tienen que pagar de regreso, solo que sí tienen que justificar dónde van a ser utilizados los fondos. Ahorita vamos a hablar de consejos claves para poder obtener ese extra financiamiento. Y estos consejos empiezan por hablar sobre los componentes fundamentales para poder poner esta propuesta. Cuando usted aplica este financiamiento, usted va a tener que escribir una propuesta. Muchas veces estas propuestas son escritas en inglés para la mayoría de estos grants. Pero si usted necesita ayuda, como yo le repito, si usted necesita ayuda para hacerlo en inglés, yo estoy disponible y yo estoy más que dispuesta en ayudarles. Y esta propuesta tiene que incluir lo siguiente. Tiene que llevar la introducción, tiene que llevar las metas y objetivos, tiene que tener un plan de operación, tiene que tener un presupuesto y tiene que tener un plan de evaluación. Entonces, si usted no tiene todo esto, no va a ser una buena propuesta y muchas veces ni siquiera la van a ver. Entonces, es muy importante que usted entienda estos componentes para poder escribir estas propuestas, para que su propuesta sea leída, porque muchas veces si usted no sigue las indicaciones, no sigue la estructura de esta propuesta, muchas veces ni siquiera la van a leer. Entonces, es bien importante que ustedes entiendan todos los componentes de la propuesta y qué tan fundamentales son y que es atención al detalle. Tenemos que estar bien atentos a todos los componentes para poder tener una propuesta que sí sea válida, que sea creíble, pero también que al fin y al cabo sí vaya a ser considerada la propuesta. Entonces vamos a hablar ahora de las metas y objetivos de esta propuesta. Hay que conocer la diferencia entre los dos. ¿Qué es una meta y qué es un objetivo? Un objetivo es la actividad específica y medible que lo ayudará a alcanzar su objetivo. Y la meta va a ser el resultado generalizado y deseado de su trabajo. Me disculpan, aquí tengo un typo. En vez de objetivo, aquí arriba debería decir meta. La meta es un resultado generalizado y deseado de su trabajo. Entonces, ¿cuál es la meta a largo plazo? ¿Qué va a ocasionar este proyecto? O sea, ¿cuál es mi meta? ¿Cuál es mi visión a largo plazo? Pero el objetivo es diferente. ¿Cuál es la actividad específica y medible que lo ayudará a alcanzar su objetivo? Y el panelista pasado nos dio un ejemplo que si usted quiere trabajar con granjas en el estado de Texas, su objetivo principal es ayudarle a cierto número de granjas. ¿Y cómo va a alcanzar ese objetivo? Va a ser ¿cómo va a alcanzar esa meta? Va a tener actividades específicas como ir a visitar a cada una de las granjas que usted quiere ayudar y tener algo que mida los metrics que le ayudará a alcanzar ese objetivo. Entonces, ¿qué actividad y en qué grado y en qué plazo? Esto lo enfatizó un montón, que cuál es la actividad, en qué grado y en qué plazo. Esto va a ser clave para su propuesta. Entonces, ¿qué actividad necesita usted realizar, hasta qué grado y en qué periodo de tiempo, en qué plazo? Esto tiene que estar atado a su plan de evaluación. Entonces, es súper importante entender esto. Creo que teníamos una pregunta. Juanita, ¿teníamos alguna pregunta? en el chat.
Sí, lo estoy respondiendo ahorita.
Ok, ok, perfecto, perfecto. Ahora, el presupuesto. Es súper importante saber cuál es el presupuesto para esta propuesta. Hay que asegurar que su propuesto tenga sentido. Entonces, si usted va a ir a visitar esas granjas, cuánto va a utilizar en kilometraje de su vehículo, cuánto va a tener que pagarle, o sea, si va a contratar a una persona específica para que haga este proyecto, cuánto va a gastar usted en utilidades, si necesitan una computadora para mantener todos estos datos conjuntos, qué es lo que usted va a necesitar para poder alcanzar esos objetivos. Todo eso tiene que estar incluido en su propuesta. Así que, digamos, si usted está necesitando dinero adicional para operar su negocio, digamos que sea un restaurante, pero usted va a tener que pagar las utilidades, usted necesita contratar más personal para poder subllevar sus actividades. Todo esto tiene que ir incluido en su presupuesto. Todo va incluido en el presupuesto. Y tiene que ser razonable, tiene que hacer sentido. Entonces, lo que usted ya escribió en su propuesta tiene que ser igual cuando usted está hablando con los números. Entonces, tiene que hacer sentido, tiene que ser igual. Lo que usted está pidiendo como propuesta, como proyecto, tiene que igualar al presupuesto que usted está presentando. Y también hay que incluir el soporte en especie. Hay que obtener ayuda cuando sea necesario. Así que tiene que ser súper específico. Y si usted necesita ayuda, por favor, obtenga esa ayuda para que su propuesta sea fuerte y para que su propuesta tenga las posibilidades de ser consideradas. Y hay que también tener un plan de evaluación. Los lazos tienen que ser medibles, con objetivos medibles. Entonces, regresando al ejemplo de las granjas, si yo digo que voy a visitar 200 granjas en 2 meses, ¿qué tan factible es eso? O sea, tienen que ser objetivos medibles. ¿Puedo yo sola visitar 200 granjas en 2 meses? ¿Es factible eso? O sea, ¿cuántas granjas tendría que visitar al día yo sola, teniendo en consideración las distancias de estas granjas? O sea, ¿es factible o no? ¿Puedo medir esos objetivos o no? Entonces, tiene que ser súper específico, tiene que ser algo real, algo con números reales. ¿Y qué pasos y qué información necesita recopilar para demostrar que ha tenido éxito? Entonces, esto es súper importante, súper importante. Un ejemplo que nos daba el panelista pasado, nos decía cuál es la diferencia entre formativo y sumativo. Sumativo es cuando, por ejemplo, usted tiene un problema con su línea telefónica, entonces usted llama para que le den asistencia con su línea telefónica, o ya sea que su internet no está funcionando o lo que sea. Usted está llamando para que le resuelvan un problema. Justo después de que usted cuelga esa llamada, le envían una subasta, no subasta, un survey. En ese survey le van a preguntar cómo estuvo la atención al cliente hoy, si le pudimos responder sus preguntas. De esa manera es como ellos agarran esa suma y esos elementos de información que al final son los que usted va a reportar cuando usted ya termine el periodo de la propuesta. Ellos van a pedir por estos datos y van a pedir estos números para asegurarse que los fondos fueron utilizados para poder llevar a cabo esta propuesta de la mejor manera posible. Así que es súper importante que tengamos ese elemento sumativo y poder tener esos surveys y esa información que ustedes puedan enviar a sus clientes. ¿Qué tal estuvo la atención al cliente? Si lo que usted está pagando por el servicio es lo que usted estaba esperando, etcétera. Entonces, si usted tiene esa manera de medir que también está usted utilizando esos fondos, eso le va a dar una ventaja increíble. También esos son los últimos pensamientos para poder desarrollar una propuesta que sea fuerte. Hay que conocer la terminología, lo que estábamos hablando al principio, conocer cuáles son esos componentes de la propuesta. Hay que revisar la solicitud de propuesta en detalle y una vez, o sea, puede ser que usted ya la haya leído 10,000 veces, y puede ser que todavía tiene errores, pida ayuda a un compañero, pida ayuda a su tía, a su tío, a su primo, que por favor lean esta propuesta, otros ojos nuevos que lean esta propuesta para asegurarse que todo esté perfecto, que no hayan errores ortográficos, que los números estén concordes, que hay que revisar la solicitud en detalle, hay que investigar la persona que está dando este financiamiento, investigar si esta persona solo ha dado a compañías en tecnología. Entonces, si usted está dedicado a la granja, no va a aplicar a este fondo porque puede ser que no se lo den, ya que el financiador solo ha dado a compañías de tecnología en el pasado. Entonces, ustedes hagan este research y esta investigación antes de aplicar para asegurarse que lo que están aplicando ustedes tienen una oportunidad de conseguir. Y hay que seguir las instrucciones y corregir. Las instrucciones son claves. A veces le pueden decir, queremos que usted use el font Times New Romans en el punto 12. Y si ustedes no usaron el punto 12 y usaron el punto 11, los descalifican por no seguir instrucciones. Entonces es súper importante seguir las instrucciones, no dejar la propuesta a último momento. Si la propuesta es, si usted la tiene que meter la propuesta para el 5 de mayo, no espera hasta último momento, tenga la lista una semana antes o 2 semanas antes para poder corregir los errores y para estar seguros de que tienen todos los componentes necesarios. Y otra vez, pedir ayuda. No tengan pena de pedir ayuda, porque esto es lo que les va a ayudar a ustedes salir adelante y poder tener más oportunidad para conseguir estos financiamientos. Y aquí está el contacto de la persona que nos dio esta información. Si ustedes necesitan más información de cómo escribir una propuesta, por favor contacten a Dr. Jefferson. Él no habla inglés, pero si me contactan a mí, yo estoy más que disponible y más que dispuesta en traducirlo para que él le dé la información necesaria. Ahora vamos a hablar de otras alternativas de financiamiento que hay disponibles. El PPP y el SBA se han estado agotando de financiamientos y puede ser que muchas instituciones financieras estén diciendo, no, ya no más, ya no hay más financiamiento. Entonces nosotros les vamos a dar una lista de otras instituciones que sí están aceptando aplicaciones. Juanita, vi que te quitaste de la mute.
No, es
¿Quieres
que
mencionar?
no. Toda la información que estás presentando es correcta. Y también te quiero dar un momento, porque en este tiempo que estamos a ser adictivos y creativos en la manera que vamos a avanzar con las organizaciones y nuestras empresas, tienen que buscar otros tipos de maneras y ver el tipo de metas que están pidiendo, ¿verdad? Y qué van a presentar. Sí tenemos diferentes recursos, pero como dices tú, aquí está Grant Space, que de muy seguro muchos no han pensado en ellos. Y tenemos que tener ese tipo de pensamiento ¿qué otros
Recursos.
¿qué otros recursos vamos a poder usar para poder avanzar? Ya que estamos viendo que otros institutos financieros no pueden soportarlos. No es que no quieren, que en este momento la necesidad es tan grande. Está grande la necesidad. Uno tiene que
tener abasto.
Sí. Vamos a
Entonces
avanzar.
hay que tener otras alternativas y ese es todo el propósito de la llamada hoy, porque quiero compartirles unos enlaces donde ustedes pueden encontrar otras oportunidades de financiamiento. Aquí, como Juanita mencionaba, Grant Space es una, pero aquí les vamos a dar otras más. Antes de seguir, solo quiero dar un disclaimer, que estos recursos financieros no quiere decir que nosotros o la universidad o HEB o maestro o Tree Shaker está proveyendo estos recursos financieros. Nosotros solo estamos dándoles la información. Así que por favor, contáctense directamente con estas instituciones para poder conseguir ese extra financiamiento. Y
solo
aquí
para
está.
educarte, ¿verdad?
Sí, sí, claro que sí. Solo para educarte y para poder darte los recursos que están disponibles y para crear una avenida mucho más fácil y rápida para que ustedes puedan tener acceso a estos recursos. Y aquí están los sitios web con los recursos financieros alternativos que hay. Ya hablamos de GrantSpace, pero también está GrantStation. Y muchos de ustedes podrán pensar que estos recursos solo son para organizaciones sin fines de lucro, pero ese no es el caso. Ahorita hay muchos grants y recursos financieros para pequeña y mediana empresa, así que los invito a que exploren estos desenlaces. Si ustedes quieren esta presentación, por favor envíenme un correo electrónico que yo se los voy a hacer llegar. Creo que Juanita escribió mi correo electrónico en el chat,
Ya lo
pero
puse.
se los voy a volver a deletrear. Es Mari, M-A-R-I, @maestrocenter.org. Así que si quieren esta presentación, envíenme un correo electrónico que yo se la voy a hacer llegar.
Quiero
Y aquí
notar,
están sí.
al otro, vamos a volver un poquito. Para las empresas que son de mujeres, noten aquí Amber Grants para mujeres en Texas Women's University. También hay, pueden ir a notar que hay información para empresas de mujeres.
Sí, claro que sí. Gracias, Juanita. Y aquí están, si usted todavía está buscando ayuda con el PPP para poder aplicar, aquí están otras instituciones que muchas veces nosotros no pensamos que nos pueden ayudar. Muchos de nuestros negocios pequeños usan QuickBooks, la mayoría, el 80% o más, utilizan QuickBooks para poder llevar la contabilidad. Y si ustedes tienen QuickBooks también, o sea, este es buen recurso que ellos le pueden ayudar a aplicar. También aquí está Funding Circle, está Cabbage, ellos también tienen un montón de recursos para poder ayudarles a ustedes. Y aquí, de hecho, les voy a dar más desenlaces. PayPal y Square. Ustedes utilizan PayPal y Square todos los días para poder hacer transacciones. Ellos también pueden ayudarles a aplicar, no necesariamente solo sus bancos. Entonces es súper importante tenerlos presentes, que ellos también están dispuestos a ayudarles y ellos tienen otras maneras de ayudarles financieramente a ustedes. Aquí está otra más recursos. También Fundera es otra que está proveyendo un montón de recursos. Ahorita puede dirigir su solicitud o prestamista con el mayor ancho de banda para proceder con su solicitud, y Fundera les está ayudando con eso actualmente.
Ellos están disponibles a poder educarte con otros tipos de financieros que puedan presentarse, que la mayoría del tiempo ni hubieran conseguido, ¿verdad?
Y ahora también hay otros bancos en el área de Houston, si nos escuchan desde Houston, que ellos están dando, también están aplicando al PPP, y no importa si usted no tiene una cuenta de bancos con ellos están dispuestos a ayudarles. Pero yo sé que Woodforest, específicamente en el área de San Antonio, ellos están ayudando sin que ustedes sean clientes de ellos. Así que, por favor, si ustedes necesitan ayuda, también diríjanse a estos desenlaces que ellos están dispuestos a ayudarles.
Y esa es información, pero lo que quiero que entiendan es, esa información es no nomás que probable, es que hemos podido hablar con ellos y que tienen oportunidad ahorita todavía que pueden soportar y poner aplicaciones.
Sí. Es correcto, entonces todavía siguen aceptando aplicaciones y puede ser que el dinero ya se acabó, pero estoy segura que van a seguir sacando. Entonces, como la vez pasada se cayó el sistema y el dinero se acabó, varias gente ya tenía su aplicación lista y ya la tenía en su institución bancaria, que cuando se abrió la siguiente ronda de dinero, ellos fueron los primeros que aplicaron esta vez. Entonces yo les recomiendo que aunque ya se acabe el dinero, aunque ya se acabe la disponibilidad, que igualmente metan su aplicación, porque puede hacer que puedan tener acceso a estos fondos disponibles.
No, y Mari, no es tanto que se acabó el dinero, es que tienen límites ellos también, porque como tenemos todos investamos en nuestros comunidad, ellos tienen límites que tienen que soportar. Y como dices tú, la siguiente ronda que están presentando en este momento, aquí en Estados Unidos sabemos que tenemos que avanzar. Y aunque estén preparando para abrir las puertas otra vez para el negocio, uno tiene que poner, entender y reconocer que hay límites para todo. Pero uno tiene que buscar una manera como soportar y avanzar y soportarse.
Claro que sí.
Y eso,
Claro que sí.
Y eso es lo que estamos haciendo. Estamos recomendando y presentando otro tipo de recursos que en realidad ni bien nos pensado, pero la necesidad para educarlos y para entender qué manera podemos avanzar.
Claro que sí, Juanita. Muchísimas gracias. Y ahora estos desenlaces fueron proveídos por el SBDC de Prairie View A&M University en la ciudad de Houston. Y ahora les voy a presentar otros desenlaces que nos provee el SBDC de University of Texas at San Antonio, en San Antonio, para los que están en esta área. Y si usted está buscando becas para peluqueros o fondos de ayuda de la Asociación de Restaurantes, si usted es un restaurante, o becas de capacitación, ahorita un montón de negocios están cerrados, pero qué mejor manera de capacitar a tus empleados ahorita. O sea, darles ese extra entrenamiento que necesitan para estar preparados y para estar listos una vez que su negocio se abra nuevamente. Como el Texas Workforce Commission, ellos tienen ahorita un montón de becas disponibles para poder dar esa educación más allá a tus empleados y para poder capacitarlos de la mejor manera posible. También hay becas de code, gente que está buscando cómo incrementar tu conocimiento en este aspecto. También hay becas para eso. Hay también la ley de ciudadanos del IRA. Si usted tiene un 401k, si usted tiene una cuenta de retiro, hay maneras de retirar ese dinero sin una penalidad, que hay un montón de gente que no reconoce esto ahorita. Si usted está en necesidad del flujo de caja y necesita cash disponible, hay una manera de retirar fondos de su cuenta de retiro sin penalidad actualmente. Y puede retirar hasta $100,000 sin penalidad. Entonces eso es una gran ayuda. Y estos son otros recursos que nos provee el Small Business Development Center de San Antonio, que yo les recomiendo, por favor, en el webinar pasado pueden ir a nuestra página web que ya está live. Ustedes pueden tener acceso a todos esos desenlaces. Si ustedes quieren escuchar la presentación pasada, ahí están todos los contactos disponibles. También ahora vamos a hablar de H-E-B. Juanita, por favor.
Oh, claro que sí. No, pero también lo que quiero también presentar es que hay otros tipos de sociocomunicados que pueden presentar información. Y la información que estamos presentando es para educarte, es para que puedan entender y tener la información para poder avanzar. Si se miran enfrente aquí, hay Unity Bank, hay Mint National Bank, todos estos recursos y información que están presentados son sobre estos programas y institutos que quieren avanzarse y pueden educarlos. So, como dices tú, hay tantos socios, comunidades que están aquí para soportar esto, y quién más como H-E-B, porque como dicen, ellos quieren educarte y abrir la oportunidad para poder avanzar. Cómo inventarse en uno mismo, pero H-E-B está pidiendo que habló la aplicación, que la mayoría del tiempo está cerrada porque la necesidad ahorita es tan gran que estamos pidiendo que por favor van a aplicar para que puedan a conocer qué es lo que está presentando H-E-B. Van a HEB.com/quest para poder enviarse en la manera que pueden a soportar, ¿verdad?
Sí, claro que sí. Y Crystal, I just want you to say hi. Crystal, are you there?
Esta es la mujer que nos trae la información y los soporta.
She's the one that supports all of our efforts. Ella es la que nos está ayudando ahorita actualmente con todos estos esfuerzos. Así que gracias, Crystal.
De nada.
Sí, HEB, como dicen aquí, HEB, aquí todo es mejor. Y es verdad, porque HEB mira la necesidad para la comunidad para poder seguir avanzando y soportar su comunidad con lo que necesita. Y ahorita tenemos el calendario donde podemos presentar para 2020, que hubo la oportunidad a poner aplicación y poder a convertirse a un proveedor para HEB. La aplicación se termina el 31 de mayo a las 4:59 de la noche. No a las 5 de la noche, para las 4:59. Por favor, pongan aplicaciones porque es una oportunidad y cuando reciben una aplicación van a comenzar instantáneamente a buscar a ver qué manera pueden soportar. Para el junio van a tener todos los finales para poder ver y para el 5 y 6 de agosto van a llamar y contactar a los finalistas. Pero también,
Claro que sí.
pero el otro slide, por favor. Van a la cita de HEB, porque para convertirse para un proveedor, van a suppliers.heb.com, porque ellos están notando la necesidad, te están oyendo, comunidad, te están oyendo que hay la necesidad y toman la oportunidad a poner aplicación para que reconozcan que aquí, no nomás en el estado de Texas, pero en San Antonio y la comunidad que tienen oportunidad para hacerse y presentar sus productos y servicios que se pueden utilizar con HEB.
Y ahorita más que nunca, sí, ahorita más que nunca HEB está apoyando a las empresas locales. Entonces ellos quieren apoyarlos, ya sea que ustedes estén en Houston o San Antonio o en cualquier parte de Texas, ellos están dispuestos a ayudarles, así que por favor los invitamos a que apliquen, ¿cierto, Juanita?
Claro que sí, pero Mari, ¿no hay algo especial que quieres presentar? Vamos a seguir.
Sí.
¿Qué es nuevo que va a venir? ¿Qué viene en mayo?
Tenemos el lanzamiento del sitio web de Maestro. Esto va a ser un sitio web que va a ser como un tipo de plataforma social parecido al Facebook, pero va a ser designada solo para empresarios y usted va a poder tener una base de datos de otros empresarios como usted, pero también van a haber recursos para la pequeña empresa. O sea, nuestro objetivo es convertirnos en una ventanilla única para los recursos de las pequeñas empresas. Entonces, el lanzamiento de esta página web es el 1 de mayo, así que por favor estén atentos para que registren su negocio y poder tener un perfil para, para poder tener acceso a todos estos recursos. Y,
no, ¿verdad? No, porque a mí me gusta comprar local. A mí me gusta soportar los empresarios locales al principio. Entonces después voy a otra parte, pero me gustan las frutas, me gustan los árboles, me gusta todo lo que están presentando, mi ropa, ¿verdad? Todos los claves que
claro
puedo.
Que sí.
So, gracias, maestros Center, por poder presentar esa información. Mari, no podemos poder avanzar si tenemos los soportar para como HEB, BBVA, Wells Fargo, Envía. Dime tú, ¿es verdad o no? Porque tener
Es verdad que no, sin la ayuda de Crystal aquí presente, nada de esto hubiera sido posible y HEB ha sido uno de nuestro apoyo incondicional, así que estamos muy agradecidos con ellos. We're very thankful, very happy to have them as partners y muchísimas gracias a todos los otros que nos apoyan. Como pueden ver, la mayoría de las cámaras de comercio nos apoyan, ellos ayudan a proveer esta información a sus miembros, pero también al Westside Development, SPDC en Houston, en San Antonio, y estamos expandiendo esta lista. Así que muchísimas gracias por todos los que nos han escuchado hoy y ahorita vamos a abrir a preguntas. Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, por favor, háganosla llegar, que ahorita estamos más que disponibles para responder cualquier pregunta que tengan. Gracias.
¿Hay cualquier pregunta? Y si no tienen pregunta, como le ponemos el correo electrónico de Mari, pídensela y con un plan que podemos presentársela y mandársela.
Claro que sí. Envíenme un correo y cualquier cosa estamos a la orden. Creo que entró algo. A ver.
No tenemos nada.
No, muchas gracias a ustedes por estar aquí y compartir su tiempo con nosotros. Así que los esperamos la próxima semana, donde vamos a tener otros empresarios a hablar con ustedes y compartir con ustedes cuáles han sido sus estrategias y qué han hecho ellos para poder superar esta pandemia y para poder seguir adelante. Así que por favor los esperamos la próxima semana. Y ya saben, en el mismo canal a la misma hora. Así que nos vemos la próxima semana. Muchas gracias.
Mari, gracias a los que vino a escucharlos y gracias por la información que Texas A&M Prairie View, University presentó. También Ramiro González, también Lloyd Wright y Rubén López. La información
Claro que
que
sí.
presentó fue...
Sí, toda la información que yo les presenté y que yo les transmití en español fue presentada por los individuos que acaba de mencionar Juanita. Y muchísimas gracias a todos, a Jasmine de Prairie View, que ella también fue una gran ayuda, a Lloyd Wright, a Ruben González, Mr. Harvey, Dr. Jefferson, James Harris from HEB, Crystal Royal from HEB, Juanita Sepulveda from Tree Shakers, and everyone that made this possible.
Right.
Así que muchísimas gracias. Gracias por escucharnos y gracias por su apoyo.
Adiós.
Hasta la próxima.
Hasta la próxima.